Dr. James Carver's beachfront cottage phone shattered the silence at 2:14 a.m. His partner Elise stirred beside him, muttering into her pillow, "Who's calling? You're not on duty." The Carvers had only been asleep for an hour, their seaside barbecue winding down past midnight. After clearing away the remnants of grilled fish and empty mojito glasses, storing leftovers and checking on their sleeping daughter, they'd collapsed into bed around 1 o'clock. Exhausted but pleased with their successful gathering, they'd noted the new citronella torches had kept the mosquitoes at bay. A solid evening. James, lulled by mojitos into a deep, dreamless sleep, snapped awake at the phone's ring, years of surgical training kicking in. He grabbed the receiver, murmuring, "Sorry love, might be an emergency." Elise nodded, sinking back into her pillow. "Hello." James listened, then threw off the covers, his feet hitting the hardwood floor. "How many? Damn. All right, I'm coming." He hung up, already moving toward the armchair where he'd tossed his chinos. Elise propped herself on an elbow. "What's going on?" "Massive pile-up on the coastal highway. Tanker flipped, it's burning. Multiple vehicles, dozens injured, headed to our ER." He slipped into his worn loafers, ones Elise loathed but he refused to replace, claiming they were finally broken in. Tugging a polo over his head, he strapped on his watch, clipped his pager to his waistband and leaned down, kissing her forehead. "If I'm still there by breakfast I'll call. Go back to sleep." "Be safe," she mumbled, already drifting off as he descended the stairs. Meanwhile, Ethan Brody finished Chapter 3 of his latest dystopian novel, a tale of a nanotech virus that liquefied victims' organs into a gray sludge within hours. As he read about a doomed Miami hacker, he scratched at a zit on his jaw, ignoring his mother's advice to leave it alone. "You're making it worse, Ethan," she'd scold. His acne, a relentless plague since puberty, defied every cream and pill. At 28, his lanky frame and unruly auburn hair didn't help his self-esteem. His mother blamed his diet, hygiene, even his late-night gaming, but no one, not even his dermatologist, could pinpoint why his face resembled a lunar landscape. Ethan's job as a night security guard at Seaside Memorial Hospital's staff parking lot suited him. The solitude and darkness dulled his insecurities, his hair less glaring under the dim lights, his skin less noticeable. His mother disapproved, nagging, "Alone all night? How'll you meet anyone?" Ethan's silent retort, "That's the point." The lot was quiet, typical for a Friday night, though weekends brought more ER traffic. Just minutes ago, Dr. Carver had pulled up in his Navy SUV, raising the gate with his transponder. Carver was decent, always a nod, never impatient if the gate malfunctioned. Ethan liked him. He returned to his novel, The Hacker Meeting a Grim End mid-code. But something nagged him. He glanced at Carver's SUV, parked in the third row. Odd, he hadn't seen Carver pass the guard booth to reach the hospital's staff entrance, a path just yards away. Ethan always noticed comings and goings, it was second nature. Frowning, he marked his page, tugged his cap lower to shadow his face and stepped outside. The August heat seeped through his sneakers as he crossed the lot, passing the first 2 rows. At the third row's end he paused. In 5 years on this job he'd never felt uneasy. The lot was well lit, shadows pooling only near the palm line perimeter. Yet something felt off. His pulse quickened. "Dr. Carver?" he called, voice shaky. No answer. He rounded the first car, switching on his flashlight for reassurance. The beam caught something that froze him. Later they found the flashlight under a car, glass cracked but still glowing, illuminating a sight more chilling than any sci-fi horror Ethan had ever read. Chapter 2. Ignoring the sarcastic jab, Riley dumped the steaming pot of crab claws into a chipped plastic colander, a relic from some forgotten tenant of his rented beach shack. He couldn't recall how he'd acquired it, but it served its purpose. He set it on the rickety table, grabbed a stack of napkins and offered his guest another cold beer. Uncapping 2 bottles of local ale, he straddled a chair across from Victor Kane. "Dig in." Victor meticulously spread a napkin over his lap. Riley was already cracking his second claw when Victor selected one, peeling it with care to avoid splashing his pressed shirt. They ate in silence, dipping into a bowl of tangy mustard sauce. Riley slurped noisily, knowing his messy habits irked his fastidious friend. Shells piled up on the newspaper spread across the table, its edges fluttering under the lazy spin of the ceiling fan, mixing the briny crab scent with the humid coastal air. After a while Victor said, "Not bad." Riley shrugged. "No rocket science. Fresh crab off the pier, boil it with some spices. Fisherman gives me a deal." "Decent of him." "Not really. I stay clear of his daughter. Riley grinned, tossing a shell onto the heap, enjoying Victor's struggle to discern if he was joking. Riley was a master at blurring truth and fiction, even with his oldest friend. Is that all you've got to talk about? Crab prices? Victor asked. You dragged me all the way to Port Mariner for this? Victor sighed, burping discreetly. Let me help clean up. Leave it. Bring your beer. The cluttered table barely worsened the shack's state, a three-room hovel that seemed one gust away from collapsing. The roof leaked, the window AC wheezed, and Riley paid weekly rent, 61 checks so far, to a landlord who didn't care. The screen door creaked as they stepped onto the narrow back porch, barely wide enough for two rusty lawn chairs, their faded blue paint peeling from years of salt air. Riley took the creaky rocker. Victor eyed the other chair warily. It won't bite, Riley said. Might stain your fancy pants, but the view's worth a laundry bill. Victor sat gingerly. The horizon soon proved Riley right, exploding into bands of crimson, gold, and violet, thunderclouds rimmed with silver. Something, isn't it? Riley said. Who's the crazy one now? I never said crazy, Victor replied. Reckless, maybe, ditching everything to live out here like a hermit. Riley's grin tightened. Thanks for the lecture. How's Sarah and the kids? Emma's on the soccer team. Lily got her first boyfriend. Congrats or condolences? Both. Riley laughed. Sarah still sending kisses? Victor smirked, eyeing Riley's scruffy jaw. I'll pass. She says hi though. They sipped their beers, watching the sunset deepen, the silence heavy with unspoken history. Riley and Victor went way back, partners from Riley's days at the Port Mariner Sheriff's Department. Victor, older and steadier, balanced Riley's impulsiveness. Victor was a family man. Riley, a bachelor with a reputation for fleeting romances. Despite their differences, they'd been a solid team, sharing risks, laughs, and a tragedy that still haunted them. When Victor called last night after months of silence, Riley hoped for a nostalgic catch-up. But Victor's polished shoes sinking into the sand and his crisp attire, khakis and a button-down, not flip-flops, signaled business, not leisure. Riley knew this wasn't a social call, and he dreaded what Victor had come to say. You weren't fired, Riley, Victor said. Indefinite leave. My choice. Under pressure. You needed a breather. Why didn't they just can me? Easier for everyone. They're smarter than you. They know you were born for this work. Riley snorted, snapping the rubber band on his wrist, a habit he barely noticed. This work? Shoveling crap? I did more of that in the department than I do now. You brought that on yourself, Victor said, voice low. That case wasn't the real issue and you know it. Drop it, Victor. Riley's tone was sharp. Victor pulled a folder from his bag, offering it. Riley ignored it, limping slightly as he stepped on a jagged bottle cap on the floor. Cursing, he kicked it away and sank into a chair, the crab shells starting to reek. He propped his foot up, inspecting the red mark on his sole. Victor, unsympathetic, slid the folder closer. Officially, I'm not here. This is delicate, complex. Look at this. Riley ignored the folder. Something wrong with your ears? I'm not interested. You will be. Victor pulled out a stack of 8 by 10 black and white photos, holding one up. Riley glanced at it. A woman in a Jeep, crossing a parking lot, in her kitchen, her bedroom, unaware of the lens invading her privacy. Got any of her in a bikini? Riley quipped. Victor smirked. Taken by Deputy Harris for the department. Our stakeout has a clear view into her place. No excuse for these unless she's flaunting it. She's not. She doesn't know. What's her deal? Victor grinned. You're curious, aren't you? Riley's resolve wavered. A year ago, he'd walked away from the sheriff's department, disillusioned by a justice system bogged down by politics and red tape. He'd seen too many criminals slip through, too many good intentions buried in bureaucracy. But these photos sparked something, his old instincts kicking in. Victor knew it, damn him. Riley grabbed the photos, flipping through them. The woman was striking, blonde, poised in a tailored blazer, no wedding ring. The bedroom shots were grainy but clear enough. What's she done? Smuggling knockoff designer bags across state lines. Victor shook his head. That's all you get till you come back with me. Riley tossed the photos back. You drove for nothing. You'll want in on this, Riley? It's a murder case. Made the headlines. I don't read papers or watch news. If you did, you'd have raced to Port Mariner. Prominent doctor, gunned down in the hospital lot. 5 days old and we've got nothing. Not my problem. The killer did it yards from a witness, unseen, unheard. silent as smoke. Left no trace. Riley met Victor's eyes, a chill creeping up his spine. "Talon," he whispered. Victor leaned back, satisfied. "Now you're intrigued." Chapter 3. Dr. Claire Morgan stepped off the elevator at Seaside Memorial Hospital and approached the nurse's station. The usually chatty nurse, Marla, was subdued. "Evening, Dr. Morgan," she said softly. "Hello." Marla's eyes flicked to the navy dress beneath Claire's white lab coat. "The funeral today?" Claire nodded. "I didn't change after." "Was it a nice service?" "As funerals go, yes. Big turnout. Dr. Carver was well liked." She paused. "And that promotion?" "Awful," Marla said, eyes glistening. "Just awful." Claire agreed silently. 5 days ago, her colleague Dr. James Carver had been murdered in the hospital parking lot. The shock lingered. Violent death at 42, especially for someone as vibrant as James, seemed impossible. She half expected him to leap out, laughing, his notorious pranks legendary. But today's service, his sealed coffin, floral tributes, Elise and their daughter's tears, made it real. "It'll take time to process," Claire said quietly, signaling an end to the topic. Marla pressed on. "I heard the police questioned everyone at Dr. Carver's barbecue that night." Claire flipped through patient charts handed to her, ignoring the implied question. "Dr. Carver was always joking, wasn't he?" Marla giggled, recalling something. "You two bickered like siblings." "We didn't bicker," Claire corrected, smiling faintly. "We debated. There's a difference. Some of those debates got heated. We were good sparring partners." Her smile faded. She'd performed 2 surgeries before the funeral, unable to reschedule due to a recent 10-day absence, a scheduling nightmare she couldn't repeat. Canceling today would have delayed critical procedures, and James would have understood her choice. Checking on post-op patients was her final task of this draining day. She asked about Mr. Hensley, whose gastric bypass she'd done that morning. "Still groggy but stable," Marla replied. Claire entered the surgical recovery room. Mrs. Hensley stood by her husband's bedside, taking advantage of the hourly 5-minute visitation. "Hello, Mrs. Hensley. He's still sleepy?" "He woke briefly to ask the time," she said, touching his cheek. "This constant light is confusing." "Common question," Claire said, scanning the chart. "Blood pressure solid. In a few weeks he'll feel like a new man. No more acid reflux keeping him up." Mrs. Hensley looked skeptical. "He's doing okay?" "Great. He'll look rough tomorrow, sore and grumpy, but that's normal. You'll wish he was sedated again." Mrs. Hensley smiled. "Grumpy I can handle so long as he's not in pain." She lowered her voice. "He was nervous about a female surgeon. Thought you'd be less skilled." Claire laughed softly. "I hope I proved him wrong. First visit he was sold. Said you were too pretty to be behind a mask, though. Tell him thanks when he wakes." Their smiles faded as Mrs. Hensley added, "I heard about Dr. Carver. Were you close?" "Very. Colleagues for years, friends too." Claire shifted back to the patient. "He's out cold, so he won't know you're here. Rest while you can. Save your energy for when he's home." Claire moved to her next patient, an elderly woman with no family save a sister in Oregon. A charity case from a state nursing home, she was recovering well. Claire lingered, holding her hand, stroking her forehead, believing touch could comfort even unconsciously. After a few minutes, she returned the charts. "I'm not on call," she told Marla. "Page me if either patient worsens." "You look exhausted, Dr. Morgan. Cheeseburger, fries, a glass of wine, maybe a hot bath." Claire smiled wearily. "If I can stay awake." She stretched her back, waiting for the elevator. Her recent absence, beyond her control, had thrown off her rhythm. James's murder, so close to where she parked, compounded the disruption. Police questioning, routine but unsettling, followed along with the funeral. The past 3 weeks had been chaos, a stark contrast to Claire's rigidly disciplined life. Her cottage, a 12-minute drive from the hospital, sat in Port Mariner's older district. She could afford trendier areas, but the quiet, oak-lined streets, built in the 1930s, suited her. The mature landscaping and sturdy homes felt permanent, unlike newer subdivisions. Her bungalow, with 4 rooms, was ideal for a single woman intent on staying that way. She'd renovated it extensively, pale blue clapboard, black shutters, a teal front door with a polished nickel knocker. Lavender and white hydrangeas bloomed under boxwoods, maintained by a costly landscaping service. She pulled into her driveway, used her remote to open the garage, and entered through the kitchen door. Dusk cast a warm glow through the backyard's magnolias. Foregoing Marla's suggested meal, Claire poured a glass of Pinot Grigio and stepped into the living room, nearly dropping it. A crystal vase of white lilies, 5 dozen, pristine, fragrant, sat on her coffee table, its facets scattering light like prisms. Stunned, she set her glass down and searched for a card. Nothing. Not her birthday, no anniversaries, no close friends or family to send such an extravagant gift. A patient? Unlikely, they'd send flowers to her office or the hospital, not her unlisted home address. Her social life was deliberately distant. She hosted dinners at restaurants, not here. The Lily's presence inside her locked home was unnerving. She sipped her wine, steadying herself, and called her neighbor Mrs. Delgado, a widowed retiree who'd tried to befriend her. Claire had gently rebuffed her overtures, valuing privacy, but they remained cordial. Mrs. Delgado, a neighborhood gossip, knew everyone's business. "Hi Mrs. Delgado, it's Claire." "Claire. How was the funeral?" She'd cornered Claire days ago about the murder, fishing for details. "Moving. Mrs. Delgado, did I get a delivery today?" "Not that I saw." "Expecting something?" Claire hesitated. Mrs. Delgado had her spare key for emergencies, a choice Claire regretted but deemed necessary. "A package maybe." "No notice on my door?" "Nope. No delivery truck either." Thanks anyway." Claire hung up before Mrs. Delgado could mention her cat's latest antics. The Lilies weren't imagined. Someone had entered her home. She checked the front door, locked. Windows, bedroom, closets, study, all secure. No signs of forced entry. Back in the living room, she stared at the Lilies, willing them to reveal their sender. Her vision blurred from fatigue until a white envelope, tucked deep in the foliage, caught her eye. Her hand trembled as she retrieved it, the surgeon's precision faltering. Inside, a typed note read, "I'm enchanted by you." Chapter 4. Uncle Riley. Uncle Riley. The two girls charged at him like a tidal wave, their teenage energy barely contained. Officially in their teens, Emma and Lily still radiated childlike enthusiasm when it came to their favorite uncle. "It's been forever, Uncle Riley. I missed you." Emma squealed, wrapping her arms around him. "Missed you both," Riley grinned, ruffling Lily's hair. "Stop growing, will you? You're catching up to me." "Nobody's as tall as you, Uncle Riley," Lily teased. "Maybe LeBron James." "Nobody who doesn't dunk for a living," he shot back. Emma spun, showing off her ears. "Mom finally let me pierce these. No nose rings, I hope. Your dad would lose it." "I'd lose it first," Emma laughed. "What about braces, Uncle Riley? Are they ugly? I might need them." "Braces? Total chick magnet," he said with a wink. "Your hair's blonder, Uncle Riley," Lily noted. "Beach life. Sun's bleaching it out. Gotta start using sunscreen or I'll end up darker than you too." They giggled wildly. "I made the soccer team," Emma announced. "High five." Riley slapped her hand. "Save me a seat at a game this fall." "The uniforms are kinda lame," Lily said solemnly. "Totally lame," Emma agreed. "Mom vetoed making them shorter." "Smart mom." Riley turned to Sarah Wesley, who pushed past her daughters to hug him tightly. "Why won't you run away with me, Sarah?" he teased. "I'm a one-man kind of woman," she laughed. "I'll change for you. Swear." "Sorry, Riley. Victor would track you down and shoot you." "All right. Him." The girls shrieked with laughter. Sarah shooed them upstairs for chores and led Riley into the cozy living room. "How's Port Mariner?" she asked. "Hot, sticky, sandy? Loving the beach bum life," he said. "Where's your old man?" "On a call. Won't be long." "Hungry?" "Grabbed ribs at Smokey's on the way. Missed that barbecue more than I realized." "Chocolate cake in the fridge?" "I'll settle for your iced tea. Sweet, naturally." "Is there any other kind?" Sarah headed to the kitchen but paused, turning back. "It's good to have you here, Riley." He didn't correct her assumption that he was back. He'd only agreed to visit Port Mariner to help Victor with a case, nothing more. No plans to step foot in the sheriff's department or feel any tug of nostalgia. This was a favor, plain and simple. Victor bustled in, dressed casually in cargo shorts, sneakers, and a Port Mariner high t-shirt, but still all cop, a case file tucked under his arm, pager clipped to his waist. "How was the drive from the coast?" "Long," Riley said. "Don't I know it?" Victor had made the round trip yesterday. "Settled in the motel? That dump's the best the department can afford?" "You left such a palace in Port Mariner," Victor quipped. Riley laughed. Sarah returned with 2 glasses of tea, setting them on coasters. The girls said not to leave without saying goodbye, Riley. Promise. I'll even tuck them in with a story. Clean one, he added, shooting Sarah a grin. Thanks for the tea, Victor said. Close the door behind you, please. Sarah left and the familiar routine settled in. Riley had spent countless evenings at the Wesleys before moving to the coast. Their home buzzed with life. Emma and Lily's friends, neighbors dropping by, the washing machine always running. Notes and photos cluttered the fridge, cookies filled a jar. Riley, practically family, had often helped with dishes or trash. Sarah joked about domesticating him and he played along. Tonight, though, was business. Got a video I want you to see, Victor said, sliding a tape into the VCR and grabbing the remote. He sat opposite Riley on the sofa. Recorded this afternoon. Dr. Claire Morgan. The screen lit up with an interrogation room, a setup Riley knew well from his sheriff's department days. The camera, likely on a tripod behind Victor, focused on the interviewee, Dr. Claire Morgan, the woman from the photos Victor showed yesterday. Riley was surprised. She didn't fit the surgeon stereotype. No nervous tics, no fidgeting. She sat composed, legs crossed, arms folded, gaze steady. Her tailored gray skirt suit, low heels, and simple stud earrings screamed understated elegance. Her blonde hair was in a sleek bun, and a no-frills watch adorned her wrist. No rings. Victor paused the tape. First impression? Riley sipped his tea. Polished. Great skin. Cool as ice. Frosty even. But she's a surgeon, supposed to stay calm under pressure, right? Right. Victor restarted the tape. His voice came through, identifying those present. Himself, Detective Cruz, Claire Morgan, and her attorney, a middle-aged man with thinning hair, a navy suit and sharp, wary eyes. Victor noted the date and case number, confirming Claire's consent to recording. I'd like to ask about Dr. James Carver's murder, Victor began. I've told you all I know, Claire said evenly. Doesn't hurt to review, does it? Unless you've got spare time to burn. Victor paused the tape. See that? Polite but with an edge. Attitude. Fits the profile, Riley said. Surgeon, God complex. Used to calling the shots, not being questioned. Exactly. Something's off with her. Victor rewound to Claire's line about spare time, then continued. You were at Carver's barbecue that night with about 20 others. Her attorney leaned forward. Have you grilled them this hard? Victor ignored him. Did you know everyone there, Dr. Morgan? Yes. I've known Elise, James's partner, almost as long as him. The guests were colleagues, their spouses. I'd met them at other events. You went alone? Yes. The only single? The attorney bristled. Is that relevant? Maybe, Victor said. I don't see how, the attorney snapped. Claire cut in. I have a busy schedule, detective. Victor shuffled his notes deliberately. It was a cookout by the beach. Carver on the grill? You want the menu too? The attorney said, dripping sarcasm. Claire answered, James thought he was a grill master. Truth is, he was terrible. We all humored him. She looked down, smiling sadly. It was a running joke. Reason for the party? Just a Friday thing or something special? She shifted slightly, recrossing her legs. We were celebrating James's promotion to chief of surgery. You were happy for him? Of course, she said, her gaze steady. You were up for that position too, weren't you? Yes. And you thought you deserved it more? Her attorney raised a hand, but Claire spoke. In my opinion, yes. I'm telling the truth, detective. You already know I was disappointed. You probably think that's a motive for murder. She leaned forward. But I didn't kill him. May I have a word with my client? The attorney asked stiffly. Victor ignored him. I don't think you killed anyone, Dr. Morgan. So why are we here? Why did you request this interview? She shot back, glancing around the room with disdain. Victor stopped the tape. She denied it before I accused her. Smart. Too smart, Riley said. She's got more degrees than you, me, and Cruz combined. She knew where you were going. You weren't subtle. She's no dummy. And she and Carver had a history of clashing. Like us, Riley laughed. Not like them. Everyone at the hospital says they respected each other professionally but didn't get along. Love affair gone bad. Riley raised an eyebrow. You asked. Got laughed at every time. No romance, just rivalry. Friendly on the surface maybe, but deeper tension. Always at odds, big issues, small ones, joking or not. Riley popped the rubber band on his wrist, processing. Was Carver's promotion about gender? Doubt it. 2 other department heads are women. Claire's been at Seaside 2 years longer than Carver. She probably thought she had it locked. Resented losing out. Riley studied Claire's frozen image on the screen, frowning. Restart it. Victor did. Did you go straight home after the party? He asked on tape. Yes, Claire said. Anyone confirm that? No. Didn't go out again? No. And no one can confirm that either, she added preemptively. But it's true. I went home, went to bed. When did you hear Carver was killed? Her head lowered, voice softening. Next morning on the news. No one called me. I was stunned. It was awful learning like that, no warning. Her fingers laced tightly. Riley paused the tape. She looks genuinely upset. Maybe, Victor said noncommittal. Asked Elise about their relationship? She said the same as everyone, mutual respect but frequent clashes. Carver loved needling Claire. He was a prankster, she's all business. Perfect foil. Maybe she thought the promotion was one prank too far, Riley said. Chapter 5. Claire Morgan hadn't slept. The lilies on her coffee table, their heavy scent filling the room, mocked her attempts to rest. She'd stayed up, scouring her cottage for clues, any sign of how someone had entered undetected. No forced locks, no jimmied windows, no footprints in the dew-soaked grass outside. Just the vase and its note, I'm enchanted by you. The words churned in her mind, a violation as tangible as the flowers themselves. She checked her security system. Cameras, motion sensors, all intact, showing nothing. Whoever left the lilies was a ghost. By dawn, she'd bagged the vase, note, and envelope in plastic, handling them with surgical gloves to preserve evidence. She considered calling the police but hesitated. Port Mariner's small department was stretched thin with James Carver's murder, and her interrogation yesterday left her wary of their scrutiny. Besides, she had no proof the flowers were connected to the crime, or that they were a crime at all. A prank, maybe, though her gut screamed otherwise. She needed answers, not more questions. At Seaside Memorial Hospital, her morning was a blur of routine. A cholecystectomy, a consult, charts. Her hands, steady in the oar, betrayed no trace of last night's unease. But in the staff lounge, sipping stale coffee, her mind wandered. Marla, the nurse, bustled in, breaking her thoughts. Dr. Morgan, you look beat. Another late night? Something like that, Claire said, forcing a smile. Anything new with Hensley? Asking for ice chips already. Man's a fighter. Marla hesitated. You hear about the parking lot? They found Ethan Brody's flashlight out there, cracked but still on. Creepy, right? Claire's grip tightened on her mug. Ethan, the night guard, hadn't been seen since the murder. She'd assumed he was a witness, maybe on leave. Cracked. Yeah, under a car like he dropped it running or something. Marla lowered her voice. They're saying he might have seen it happen. Poor kid. Claire nodded, her unease deepening. Ethan, with his shy demeanor and acne-scarred face, was a fixture in the lot. She barely knew him, but his absence felt ominous. Police say anything? Not to me. They're crawling all over though. Asking about you, Carver, everyone at that barbecue. Marla's eyes lingered, curious. Claire stood, rinsing her mug. I've got rounds. She left before Marla could press further. In the corridor, her pager buzzed. A non-urgent code from the ER. She ignored it, heading to her office instead. Locking the door, she pulled the bagged lilies from her locked desk drawer. The note's typed font was generic, untraceable without lab analysis. She needed someone discreet, someone outside the hospital's gossip mill. Her thoughts turned to Riley Trent, a name she'd heard in passing from Elise. A former deputy, now a recluse on the coast, he'd worked with Victor Kane, the detective grilling her yesterday. Riley had a reputation. Sharp, unorthodox, burned out after a bad case. If anyone could dig without drawing attention, it was him. She found his number through a mutual contact, a retired nurse who owed her a favor. Dialing, she braced for rejection. The line rang twice before a gruff voice answered. Trent. Mr. Trent, this is Dr. Claire Morgan. I need your help. It's sensitive. Pause. I'm not in that game anymore, Doc. I know. But I have something you'll want to see. It's about James Carver's murder. Can we meet? Another pause longer. Where? My place. Tonight, 8 p.m. I'll text the address. She hung up before he could argue, her pulse racing. Trusting a stranger was a risk, but so was doing nothing. Riley arrived at Claire's cottage at 7:58 p.m., his beat-up pickup rattling into her driveway. Port Mariner's old district was quiet, its oak-lined streets glowing under streetlights. Her bungalow was pristine, blue clapboard, teal door, hydrangeas in bloom. Too perfect, he thought, like a stage set. He knocked and she opened the door, her blonde hair loose, her eyes sharp despite visible fatigue. No white coat now, just jeans and a linen blouse, but she still carried that surgeon's poise. "Mr. Trent," she said, stepping aside. "Thanks for coming. Riley's fine." He scanned the living room. Minimalist, tasteful, no clutter. The bagged lilies sat on a side table, an odd contrast to the room's order. "That the problem?" She nodded, handing him the bag. "Found these here last night. No card, just this." She showed him the note, still in its plastic sleeve. "I'm enchanted by you." Riley's jaw tightened. "No one has a key? Delivery guy, cleaner?" "Only my neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, for emergencies." She saw nothing. "My security system's clean too." He examined the note, its edges crisp, no smudges. Typed. "Could be anyone with a printer. You call the cops?" "Not yet. They're focused on James's murder. I don't want to be their next suspect." "Smart." He set the bag down. "You think this is tied to Carver?" "I don't know. But it's not random. Someone got in here, Riley. Without a trace." He studied her, noting the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers flexed slightly. A surgeon's hands, used to control, now grasping at uncertainty. "Why me?" "Elise mentioned you. Said you were good before you left the department." He snorted. "Nice way to say I burned out. Look, I'm not a PI. I'm here because Victor dragged me into this case. But I'll bite. Tell me about you and Carver." Her eyes narrowed. "You've seen the interrogation tape." "Guilty. Victor thinks you're hiding something." "Are you?" "I didn't kill James. We were colleagues, friends, sometimes rivals." "That's it." "Rivals how?" "Professional. We both wanted chief of surgery." "You got it?" "I was disappointed, not homicidal." Riley paced, glancing at the lilies. "Someone's watching you. This," he tapped the bag, "is personal. Stalker vibes. Could be the killer, could be unrelated. Either way, you're a target." Claire's face paled, but her voice stayed steady. "What do we do?" "First, you get a new security system. Cameras with cloud backup, not local storage. Second, you don't stay here alone until we know more. Got a friend you trust?" "Not really," she admitted. "I keep to myself." "Figures." He pulled out his phone. "I'll call Victor, get him to run the note for prints, DNA, anything. Off the record. You okay with that?" She nodded. "What's next?" "I dig." Quietly. "You act normal, work, home, no changes. If someone's watching, we don't spook them. And you call me if anything feels off. Deal?" "Deal." She extended her hand. He shook it, her grip firm, her eyes searching his for reassurance he couldn't fully give. As he stepped outside, the coastal air hit him, salty and cool. He glanced back at the cottage, its windows dark except for the living room's glow. Something about Claire Morgan, her calm, her secrets, felt like a puzzle piece that didn't fit. And Riley, despite himself, was hooked.